Man United and Arsenal drew.
They did, didn't they?
Yeah, that was those goals, they were something else.
God, Man United is so bad now.
Yeah, you know what? It's because Mourinho isn't enthusiastic.
Yeah.
He's trying to be cool. He's trying to not react to things, but it's just not good. Because when you think about it, Luke, we react to things on this podcast, don't we?
We do. Yeah.
It's proof that reacting to things is good, because this podcast is really good. And that's
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's the highest quality.
Yeah, like with our 0 views that we get.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I feel like at some point we did, like we now have 9 subscribers. I feel like that's a jump up from last time. I mean, I don't pay attention, so it's because I logged on to upload Creed, and I just ended up just casually looking at the subscribers, and I was like, oh, 9.
We're getting there.
Anyway, okay, I can do the intro now.
Yeah.
Back up, chump, you know Biggie Smalls rips it quick and kicks it quick. You know how black niggas get. With the hood fatigues, with the boots with trees. Flipping trees, making crazy trees. Hitting buckshots at niggas that open spots on the avenue. Take my loot and I'm bagging. Pimping hoes that drive Bobos and rodeos. Flash the roll, make a wet in they pantyhose. Damn, a nigga style is unorthodox. Grip the Glock when I walk down the crowded block. Just in case a nigga wanna act out, I just black out, blow the motherfucking back out. That's a real nigga for you.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out relatively recently at the cinema and see if they still hold up upon a second watch. I am your host, Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Luke. And this week we are looking at Man of Steel to celebrate DC Ember.
What a great name.
Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Man of Steel?
Sure thing, Michael. So, Man of Steel is a 2013 superhero film featuring the DC Comics character Superman. It is a British-American venture produced by DC, Legendary Pictures, and Syncopy. It is the first installment in the DC Extended Universe, or the DCEU. The film is directed by Zack Snyder. It's written by David Goyer, and also stars Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Kevin Costner, Diane Lane, Lawrence Fishburne, and some other people, including Russell Crowe. It was released on June the 14th, 2013 in the United Kingdom and the United States. And Michael, can you tell me how much the budget was?
I mean, it must have been quite high. There's a lot going on. I'm gonna guess over 100 million. I don't think they would have spent 200 million on this though, but I think maybe towards 200 million. So I'm gonna go for what seems reasonable, which is 160 million.
225 million. That is a lot.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
DC will...
They had a lot of faith in this cinematic universe.
They really did. They were, hey, Marvel could do it, so we can do it as well.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. I hope one day they make a black comedy about... I think, basically, that's what we should do, Luke. We should make a little kind of black comedy, Edgar Wright style, and it would be about... it would be called Expanded Universe, and it would be about studio executives and their various failed attempts to start expanded universes, and everyone would love it.
Sounds great. I think that would actually be pretty good.
Yeah,
that would be cutting edge comedy.
Because it's not necessarily dark comedy, but like I guess you'd say stereotypical British comedy where it always fails at the end. That's in now. Because people are depressed.
Yeah. Well, if people are depressed, why didn't this movie do so well with the critics, Michael? That's the question. Yeah,
I was going to do what would have been a good segue if only I'd already guessed the box office. I could have said, speaking of depression, what did you think of the film? But unfortunately, we've got to do the budget. So, not the budget, the box office.
Yeah, how much did it make, Michael?
I think it made quite a lot. I think possibly it made, I think it made over 500 million. I don't think it made $1 billion. That just seems too much. But I'm going to go for... I think I'm just going to split the difference and go 750 million.
It's not the worst guess ever, Michael. It's not the worst guess, but it is only 668 million.
Okay, yeah. glad I split the difference, because I think I might have erred on the side of going more close to 1 billion. But anyway,
Yeah.
But yeah, now importantly, did you like it, Luke?
No, Michael, I can't say I like this movie. Did
Well,
you like it?
I didn't like it, Luke. I don't think I didn't hate it as much as I was expecting to, but I think the reason I didn't hate it as much as I expected to is because I remembered all the things I hated.
Yeah.
And I was expecting them. Because, like, for example, that action scene at the end, I was thinking to myself, like, oh, this is going to be so long and just so over the top and annoying. And I think because I was prepared for it, I think that's kind of the thing with Man of Steel. People were, like, shocked. So, because of that.
No, when I watched it the first time, I was like, what the fuck is this? But now, like, watching it the second time recently, it's like, yeah, I expect it. And it's like, oh, it's not as bad as I remember.
Yeah,
but
so that's basically
impact, yeah.
It's like smallpox. Once you've got it once, you're not affected by it anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good summary, really good metaphor there.
Yeah, Smallpox the movie.
So, Michael, nitpicks.
Yeah, nitpicks. Okay, so I have. Let me actually look at them. Okay, I've got 2. How many have you got?
I've got, let me see actually, because I've got quite a few. I've got more than you, basically. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
See, I'll just say one thing about nitpicks. My thoughts were this. When I was watching a film, I was thinking, I have a lot of problems with this film, but they're too consequential to be nitpicks. But anyway, okay, I'll go first. As always, I'll start with my least compelling one, which is, I think Henry Cavill is too attractive to have been believably bullied. I don't understand why every single scene when he's a kid he's being bullied, when in reality, this guy would just be getting so many chicks.
No, but that's the thing, like, when he's a kid, he's not that attractive.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, his jaw hasn't come in yet,
Yeah, he's so attractive, isn't he?
He's the perfect, face, it's crazy.
I know. that first, not first scene, but that scene where he's walking off the beach and he's got just his massive Superman chest and his perfect jaw. It's crazy. Where did they find him? Was he really in anything before Man of Steel?
No, that's the thing.
They just thought, let's find the most perfect human being in the world.
He looks like Superman as well. That's the thing. You imagine the comic Superman in the comics. He was literally he was born to play the role. I wonder if when he got into acting, was it a case of one day I'll end up playing Superman? That's what happened
is his dad. He was raised on a farm, and his dad was like, "You're so." I can't really do a Midwestern accent, but it was like, "You're so handsome. You were made to play Superman. It's your destiny."
Oh God.
Anyway, and then my other one is Zod suddenly gets really powerful. They established this thing where obviously Superman is I've adapted to Earth's environment, and you assume that's because he's been living there for his entire life, which I'm guessing is 30 years at this point or whatever. And it's all a big thing. And then suddenly Zod just seems to just with relatively little time become just as strong as Superman, even though 10 minutes earlier he was physically couldn't even walk because he was so sick. So apparently it will only take us 10 minutes to get used to Mars. Just take off that spacesuit for 10 minutes and we'll be fine.
Yeah, the thing is, I was thinking that at the time, but I didn't put it down as one of my nitpicks. So yeah, but that's a really good point. He says one of the reasons why he's oh, we've got to destroy the human race by changing the atmosphere is because he says it to Russell Crowe. What he says, and suffer for years, your son did. But no, apparently it's not suffering for years. Maybe it's just suffering for a couple of hours, and you get used to it. So yeah, he could, no need to change the atmosphere.
Also, they didn't really need to suffer for years. They could have just gradually got used to it. That probably wouldn't be a bad thing. There's an old Walking with Dinosaurs episode where I forget his name. His name's Steve, but not the dead Steve.
Buscemi.
No, it's a Steve that starts with B, and he's a wildlife presenter, but you're probably not going to know who he is. Basically,
yeah, Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi is not a wildlife presenter. Anyway, so basically, it's the best thing ever because it's Walking with Dinosaurs, but it's looking at all of the dinosaurs in the ocean. But what's delightful about it is that it's presented like it's real life. So
Yeah, no, I've
he's-
seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got like an oxygen tank. He's like, the atmosphere here in the Carboniferous is so bad. I have to constantly breathe in this oxygen. And you just think, dude, these dinosaurs don't look realistic at all. It's like the early 2000s. Put yourself out. Anyway, what are your nitpicks?
Okay, my nitpicks. Like I said, I've got 7. So my first one, isn't it a bit of a coincidence that Superman is born on the exact same day of the Rebellion of Krypton?
You know what? Okay, so I do have a general point about that, but yes, it is, Luke.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. Like, he's a natural birth, so we're assuming maybe it doesn't take 9 months for Kryptonians to be born, but it wouldn't take like a couple of days.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, the
yeah.
other crazy thing, and I guess I'm kind of going to blow my load a bit early because this is a general criticism I have of like the first act. I guess it's not even the first, it's like the first 20 minutes, is that they're like hammering in so many things all at once that it becomes like, why did all this happen on the same day? Because, like, first of all, it's the first ever natural conception.
Mm-hmm.
It's the destruction of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a massive,
Rebellion.
rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, I guess that's kind of it. But yeah, those 3 things, or 4 things, all together, and it's like, good. It's failing to suspend my disbelief, as they say.
Yeah, I was thinking that. It was like, they generally do explain quite a bit of it throughout the rest of the movie, what's happening in that opening 20 minutes. And I was going to be like, well, I don't really know the origin story of Superman, but there's a lot going on here, and I'm quite confused. And I don't want to say it's a nitpick, because obviously, like, there's Superman, people who know the Superman origin story will be like, oh yeah, we get all this, it's all explained. But they did explain most of it throughout the rest of the movie, so yeah, it's a bit shit they just lumped it all at you right away, but I guess, it could have been worse. Next up, okay, this one really pissed me off, Michael,
Oh,
because I think
a good
this is incredibly unrealistic. Lawrence Fishburne, okay, right? I don't know what's his name. Can you remember? It's like Perry or something.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway, right. He's the editor of this major newspaper, the Daily Planet.
Oh, okay, I think I know what you're going to say, but
Okay, what do you think I'm going to say?
I think you're probably going to say, like, it's ridiculous that a major newspaper wouldn't want to report this kind of story.
Exactly, Michael.
Yes.
Exactly. At a time when print publications aren't doing so well, I assume the Daily Planet, has taken a hit in terms of like jobs, like a lot of print newspapers, certainly before Trump came along. Lawrence Fishburne is going to turn down this story of a Superman, an alien, because of how people will react.
Yeah,
Are you serious? Maybe it's the biggest story in human history. We're not alone on this earth. There are aliens. And he's just like, nah, Wait, what? Think of the consequences.
Yeah, the
Jesus.
stupid thing is, they could have made it like so much more sensible if obviously he wanted to print it, because why wouldn't he? And the FBI was like, you can't print this. Because it makes sense, the FBI wouldn't want to print it, but yeah, it doesn't make sense at all that any news outlet would not want to report this.
It's like, this could be the story of my career.
Oh, what? Okay, here's what I
Just
think would be
like that.
hilarious. You know how there's like, have you ever been onto the crazy conspiracy side of YouTube?
I haven't,
There's
unfortunately.
all these videos. Like, well, first of all, there's this guy who he knows where Atlantis was, and he's got like his entire channel is all about like, I know where Atlantis is. But the other thing, you get all of this kind of like, Babylon was founded by aliens. That's a really popular conspiracy theory. But what I think would be great is if like you had an alien film, and the people who are actual like alien conspiracy theorists were suddenly massive skeptics. They were like, hold on a minute, this seems a bit too credible. I'm not sure I believe this.
Oh, yeah. Well, the whole idea is they want to feel special. They want to feel like
Yeah.
they know something that the rest of people don't. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's why they don't
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams, but Zod's laser vision can.
It's why they don't latch onto the whole Trump collusion thing with Russia.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's because, like, oh, well, that's what a lot of people think, so, we don't feel special, even though like, it's like this massive conspiracy theory which may actually be true, and like one of the major stories of the century. But yeah, they don't care. Anyway, next up, why does General Zod want Lois Lane on his ship, Michael?
He wants her on his ship so that she can be probed.
Like, it seems like the only reason she's on that ship is that she gets to save Superman. I think they mentioned like so obviously there's this scene where Superman and Zod, they're like in this fictional, dream-based world, and he's standing on a bunch of skulls. And the thing is,
he's a really good at selling his vision to people.
yes. And here's the thing, like Lois says something afterwards when they both got off the ship. It's like, oh, he made me do this. Well, basically, she implies that they looked inside her head as well. But that it may have been a cutscene, but it's not in the movie. So I'm going to give it a nitpick.
Yeah,
I
agree.
They may have wanted to get Lois on to do something, but they didn't show it. So for me, that's just a nitpick. I'm sorry.
Maybe they needed her on there because she was the only one who could understand their alien language.
Yeah. Nice callback there.
Yeah.
My next nitpick, the IHOP product placement. There were various other product placements. Like there was the Nikon
there was
one.
Sears.
Do you remember the Nikon one though?
Yes.
It's when she raises her camera above the ladder and it says Nikon before she gets up, and it's like, oh Jesus, that's so blatant. But the IHOP one as well. Like, how many times is IHOP shown? Like 5 times.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing: the Sears.
I don't want to eat there. I'm worried that a giant superhuman could come crashing in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very annoying for us because we don't even have the option of eating at IHOP, so it's completely wasted on us.
I don't think it's annoying that we don't have the option of eating at IHOP, to be honest.
Well, the only thing that annoys me more than blatant advertisements is redundant advertisements.
All right, fair enough. Next nitpick: why does Zod deploy the world engine thingy over Metropolis? Is it because that's where Superman's going to be working in the future? Is it because that's where Lawrence Fishburne is, and we need him in the movie some more?
I think if there is any explanation at all, it may be because he wants to achieve the dual function of creating a new world and also destroying lots of people. And therefore he's like, well, you know what, if I put this here, kill 2 birds with one stone, start terraforming Earth, and also kill all those New Yorkers. Maybe he just hates New York. I mean,
it's Metropolis, Michael.
Yeah, how silly of me.
You idiot.
Yeah.
I do often think in this DC universe, where are Metropolis and Gotham? Actually, no, in Batman vs Superman, they're just across the bay from each other. That's great. We'll get to that next week.
It's a bit weird. Like, I don't really understand what I kind of wonder is like I don't know if they ever had like a map of the United States in the DC expanded universe, but I don't know. What does it look like? Is it I feel like it's basically just the same except New York is 2 cities. That's my theory.
Fair enough. Okay. So my next nitpick. This one actually is one that I don't know if you noticed, Michael, but I noticed it. So at the end, when Lois falls out of the ship and she's falling down to Earth, and Superman saves her. Obviously, she's falling downwards, but bits of concrete are flowing upwards as the black hole is sucking those bits of concrete in. But she's just falling down. So
I think it's because she's heavier than concrete.
Makes sense.
She is fat.
Yeah, very very fat.
Like Amy Schumer.
Final nitpick is at the end of the movie, when Zod is firing his laser beam at that family, why don't they just walk past it and escape? That's the thing. Like, they're not actually trapped. They could get around his laser beam. They can just because they're trapped. Well, they're kind of trapped between the laser beam and the stairs, but they can. There is a gap they can walk past. So I don't know why they don't just do that. Like, that would be my first instinct.
Yeah, well, you know what they say, Luke? There are 3 responses to danger. You can flight, or you can fight, or you can freeze. And clearly they went for the latter one. So they deserve to die.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was watching it. It was like, no, they could just literally walk past this. But yeah, whatever, Michael. Whatever.
Yeah,
anyway, I think we should get onto the plot. Yes. So, Michael.
Yes.
The plot. It was. So here's my opinion. For the first 1 hour and 30 minutes, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all good. Like, it's a regular superhero origin story. The plot isn't too crazy. There's nothing too bad. There's nothing really that good. And it's almost exactly at the 1 hour 30 mark that it all goes wrong when the fight scenes start to happen.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know. Do you have anything to say about the before the fight scene? So the first 1 hour 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Go for it. Yeah.
I'm just gonna have a brief look. Okay. Oh wow! I've got a whole load of stuff about the destruction of Klingon. No, it's not Klingon. The destruction. There we go. Of Krypton.
Yeah,
so,
Krypton. You got it.
I think I have one positive.
Okay.
I did like the world building because it felt like kind of an alien world.
It felt like Avatar.
I liked the one little shot of like the animal, and I was thinking, oh, that's an alien-looking animal. That's good. Well done. You made this alien world like an alien world. Good job, Zach. But the other ones, okay. So I got this. Okay, I wrote down the destruction of Krypton was kind of confusing. Obviously, we have spoken about that a bit. It's just okay. In general, the problem was like, here's what I think they should have done. They should have Peter Jackson, the Lord of the Rings'd this film, or this film series. Because, of course, as we all know, because we've all seen Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings, what Peter Jackson does is he has like a little prologue at the beginning of each of his films, a cold intro, if you will. And that cold intro sets up the various kind of starting, the lore that sets up the Lord of the Rings universe. So yeah, what he does, he doesn't want to overburden people with all of this lore. So he splits it up between the three films. So you got the first film, at the beginning, a little bit of information, what are the rings, what do they do? Then you get the film. Second film, a little bit of information, who's Gandalf, what's his deal? Next one, then So what they should have done is they should have had like, just start the film with the capsule falling to Earth. Because then you don't have all of that crap. And also don't have Zod in this film. I know it's a big change, but just like have a little villain, because you got this superhero origin stuff going on, and you've got this guy, and he's got all of this backstory, and he's directly attached to Superman's backstory. Just have the capsule falling to Earth, first scene, then have, Superman, he's being raised as a kid. What happens to him as a kid? What are his experiences? I really didn't appreciate. I'm not the kind of person who hates non-linear plots, because I can, understand non-linear plots and how they can be useful, but I just think, I think they could have improved it by just having it, be a linear progression. He starts off as a confused kid, and then he learns it, and then we see him grow. I think that probably would have helped a bit. And then do a second film. Start off. We already know who Superman is. We already know all this stuff. Then you can show the destruction of Krypton. You can show Zod. Zod? Is it Zod or Zog?
It is Zod, Michael.
Okay, Zod. You can show Zod. You can show how he's like I don't know. I think making him, an antagonist before the destruction of Krypton. Oh, actually, okay. Oh, no. I'm going to talk about Zod a bit later, but yeah.
Okay.
But so basically, don't have the whole massive scene at the beginning, and that's point number one. I'll let you, talk about that first.
Yeah, no, I was, obviously, we talked about it a bit in the nitpicks about how there was a lot going on. One of the things they didn't explain, actually, in that first opening scene, which I'm interested in, they explain most of anything else, but when Zod's like pure bloodlines and all of that kind of shit, it's like, well, aren't they these Krypton babies that are artificially created? So what do you mean pure bloodlines? I didn't get that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe maybe some degenerates have been going in and wanking on the insemination cells.
Great. What a crazy. That's a scandal in Krypton.
I think it's basically because somebody can't be a bad person without being a Nazi. That's like a new rule in Hollywood. If they're not Nazi, they're not bad.
They have to be about the pure bloodlines.
Yeah.
Because Voldemort was like that. Grindelwald was like that recently in Fantastic Beasts. General Zod's like that. Always have to be about those pure bloodlines.
Yes. But anyway, I don't know what that meant either. And it's just annoying. And also, I mean, I guess you have the other problem of like, how is this society collapsing? It doesn't really explain why it's collapsing, because they have interstellar travel. I'm not quite sure how. Yeah. It just, what is the cause for this destruction? So I think basically they should have just left it until another film, because that's kind of how it works. What you have is you start off in the present, and then eventually the characters discover things about their past as the story progresses, and you can have a whole little film about because oh no, we'll talk about that later.
It's a good idea though. Like the second story adds more depth.
Yeah,
it's like the first story is just about Superman, the origin story. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. You can cut some of that down, and then in the second one, then it starts getting into the lore.
Yes.
think that would be a good way to go.
And then the second point, only other point I really had to make before the, I think so, wait. Oh, no, okay, I did have, oh, no, okay, no, I didn't. Okay, yeah, so, second point, I do think they should have made it more linear. I think it should have been, Superman as a kid. We see him as a kid, growing as a kid. Then he becomes a teenager. Then he becomes, can't think what the word is, like a drifter. I think maybe they could have done a bit of like moving around the timeline, but I don't know. I just felt like it was like we already, we're not really seeing him grow as a person. We're just seeing him as he is, and then every now and then it will be like, oh, flashback to things that had varying relevance to the plot, but in good times they actually were relevant. But even then, it was just like, I mean, who's this bozo who's getting swept up by a tornado? I ain't seen him. And also, one more thing. The way that he like tells Superman he's like an alien just feels like it only happened because they needed a scene where he tells Superman he's an alien. Like, there was no reason within that point in the story for him to be like, oh, by the way, you're an alien. I was just thinking to myself, surely you would either not want to tell him at all, or you would have told him by now. It's just like that, first time that something happens, like, oh yeah, by the way, I've got this big little reveal for you to show you you're an alien. I just think, I don't know, there's a little rule for exposition, and exposition is very interesting. Let's see if I can make the sentence. So the problem with exposition is that a lot of the time characters are too eager to give away information. That's a rule for filmmaking. A lot of the time characters are too eager to give away information. So the way you make exposition compelling is by having the characters not want to reveal information, because that way you're learning this stuff, but the way you're learning it is inherently dramatic, because the characters aren't just going, I've got something to show you, let me tell you all about who you are and where you came from and blah 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 blah. They're actively trying to keep this information suppressed, so you're automatically invested in finding out this information.
That's a really good point, Michael.
Yeah, so there we go. So make it more linear, and then we can find things out as Superman finds them out and grow with him as a person by watching him progress.
Yeah.
And then we get on to the action. So
okay.
I'll let you field most of this one, Luke.
Okay. So as we've said, so the first 1 hour 30, it's okay. Like, yeah, it's regular superhero origin story, perhaps slightly below average, but
yeah, it wasn't awful.
Yeah, but what was awful were these action scenes. So firstly, Superman and Zod engage in a fight which absolutely wrecks Smallville. That's Superman's hometown in Kansas.
Yeah.
Then they completely annihilate Metropolis. Superman engages in and abets in this destruction. For example, he destroys Zod's ship as he's approaching Metropolis instead of trying to nude it or something like that, which will undoubtedly kill dozens of people when it crashes into Metropolis, into all those buildings. And I mean, I could go into further detail, but basically, Michael, the point is, these action scenes were horrific, not just because of how long they went on for, but because of just the destruction and the innocent people that were killed in a Superman movie.
Yes.
It was unbelievable when I watched it the first time. The second time, like we said, we were used to it, but yeah, still, objectively speaking, like it was very, very bad.
Yeah, I have one good thing to say, but it's with reference to something that is actually before the action properly kicks off.
Okay.
I did like the scene where, even though there was no reason she was there, Lois Lane was escaping through the ship, mostly because it was kind of like not over the top. Basically, she was just, being guided around by this robot thing, hologram thing, and he was closing all the doors and telling her which way to go, and it was kind of like,
Yeah, that was nice.
And then, the action, the only thing I really have to say about the action, we'll talk about it a bit more when we talk about Superman, because obviously it's relevant to his character, but the only thing I really wanted to say is that they should have built up the character of the soldiers. Like, I mean, just off the top of my head, didn't write this down, but let's say when Superman's a kid, one of his friends is a friend, and he becomes a soldier, and then obviously, and then maybe they die, in which case that's sad, or they don't die, in which case maybe Superman rescues them, and then we feel good about the fact that Superman rescues them. But as things stand, it's just like the only two people we really care about are smashing each other into IHOPs, while everyone else is just being destroyed, obliterated en masse. There's actually a a calculation for how many like total people died in Man of Steel, and I can't remember what it was, but Zack Snyder, it was in the millions. Zack Snyder was asked about it, and he was like, "Yeah, that's probably accurate."
Well, I was going to say, like, at the end, when Superman does kill Zod, he does it to save 4 people. When Zod has probably killed, and him as well, I guess, it's probably killed like 4 million.
Already. Oh yeah, sorry, I did want to mention, because I was thinking about when you were talking about your nitpicking, you were saying those people could just walk around. I was thinking, well, it's very important for Superman that he make sure that those innocent people don't die.
100 times the amount of people have already been killed, and that does remove the tension of the moment, because I don't really care if like an extra 4 innocent people die because of what we've just seen. So again, it's just awful.
It becomes pretty meaningless. When people die in most superhero films, you're like, oh, that's sad. And obviously,
sorry, go on.
I was going to say, obviously, you can have a thing in a film where millions of people die, but
Schindler's List.
Like, I don't know. I can't think of any examples of it in a superhero film, but I guess the only one I can think of is Watchmen, which was also directed by Zack Snyder. But Watchmen. I think I want to talk about Zack Snyder a bit, probably when I round up, just to kind of compare this to his other films. But Watchmen at least takes the death seriously. Like, the deaths in Watchmen I know you've seen it because Kyle showed it to you. The bit where Dr. Manhattan appears in New York and he just kills millions of people. And it's a massive plot point that millions of people have died. And it's kind of like the focus of the scene. In this film, the problem is millions of people are dying, and it isn't the focus of the scene. It's not the thing that the film is concerned with. The film's like, oh yeah, by the way, loads of people are dying, Oh yeah, that massive skyscraper filled with people, that just collapsed. But the important thing is that Zod and Superman, who are both almost invincible, unless they're getting their neck snapped, almost invincible, are fighting each other. But these people who are very much not invincible are dying by the millions.
Yeah. Obviously, in Batman vs. Superman, there's things that happen from this fight. And I think that was because of the bad reaction to this fight. Yeah, and obviously we can discuss that next week. But yeah, generally, with this fight, it was just... I can't believe Zack Snyder... Well, maybe Zack Snyder I can believe, but other people are just looking at this, thinking, yeah, that's all good.
Yeah.
This massive fight scene where millions of people are dying, And when Lois Lane kisses Superman, when literally millions of people have died around them, it's just, the tone is just so off.
Yes.
It's just not the right moment for that, is it? Maybe afterwards, when they're working together in the Daily Planet. But actually, remember the final scene, obviously, when he goes to work in the Daily Planet. Like, I'm pretty sure, wasn't their building destroyed or whatever? Now they got it back?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they were just lucky. I'm not sure if it showed their building being destroyed, but... Anyway, you know what? This has been quite a good segue to action, obviously.
Oh, I just want to say, Michael, that last thing with those 4 people, when Superman say those 4 people, when I watched this movie, what?
Sorry, I'm saying, oh yeah.
Yeah, when I watched this movie for the first time, it was back in 2014 or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember being really pissed off at that scene. I remember the anger I felt watching that. It's like literally millions of people have died, and just you've saved these 4 people. Now it's all good. Fuck off.
It's so dumb.
So I was just saying the anger that I felt.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, let's get on to what do you want to talk about next?
Action. I don't think we have much to say, just in terms of like how it was made. So I really have, first of all, this wasn't so bad later on, I don't think, but in the opening, there's a scene where Kurt, I've forgotten his name. What's the name of the actor who plays the dad? As in
Kevin Costner.
No, the other dad.
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. For some reason, I was thinking of Kurt Russell. What a disaster. Anyway,
what if these 2 characters were in Daddy's Home?
Yeah. Anyway, so Russell Crowe starts fighting. I don't know if it's when he starts fighting Zod, but he starts fighting someone, and there's literally like a dozen cuts per hit. He's like moves his hand, and as he's moving his hand, there's like a million cuts, and you have no idea what's going on. I think they kind of stopped that, and that's because it mostly became CG. So it didn't, they didn't need to cut because the actors weren't doing anything. That for one scene, it just really annoyed me. But speaking of it being mostly CG, I think this is kind of more of just a discussion point than a criticism. I found the idea of like superhumans just smashing each other into things to be kind of interesting.
I found it to be the exact opposite. Incredibly dull.
Okay, see, here's the thing, okay? I find it interesting as, like, on a kind of meta-narrative level. So, like, not interesting in the sense of, like, the story being interesting, but interesting in the way of, like, okay, so this is what it would look like if two, invincible, godlike, powerful people were fighting each other. And I was thinking, it's quite something. I guess I could imagine it being in an intelligent film, kind of like a deconstruction of the notion of action itself, because all they're doing is just like they can't even harm each other because they're just so crazy. And I was just thinking, oh, you know what? It's not interesting in terms of my concern for the characters, but I'm just like, oh yeah, isn't that something? And that's my that's my compliment. No, yeah, okay. I was thinking I would be interested in seeing. I would be happy to see a Superman film where it was good in other respects, and then just at one point I kind of just appreciated the confusion of just like, wow, this is just crazy. I'm fond of like it kind of reminds me of the scene in. Obviously, they're played completely differently tonally, which I guess that's the problem because in Avengers. There's famously a scene where Loki is just about to go on a big megalomaniacal rant, and then the Hulk picks him up and smashes him all over the place. And that's what I was thinking of. So it's like tonally it doesn't work. But so that's basically what I was thinking. I was thinking like it would work in a way if you almost made it comical. Also, another example, Terminator 3. There's a scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger fights some woman in a bathroom. And it's just hilarious. Like, she's picking him up, just smashing him through walls. She picks up a toilet, just throws it on his head. Hilarious.
Okay.
That's what they should have had.
I think I get what you're saying. Like, this would be funny if the tone was...
Yeah.
If it was absurd. You like the absurdity of it.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I also like the scene in Superman 3 where a woman gets turned into a robot and then she fights Superman.
Okay. So the problem, obviously, I think you've said with this, the tone is that it's the complete opposite of absurd. It's a very serious movie.
Yeah.
They take it very seriously. So yeah.
Yeah, very serious.
And obviously, then they're just punching each other. Like one punches one 5 blocks, the other comes back and punches the other 5 blocks. It's just pointless, really.
Yeah. Like, there's no, like, I think I will say this. I haven't written it down, but I think the thing that would have made the action more interesting is a sense of coordination, because I did not really enjoy the massive fight scene at the end of the Avengers. But compared to this, I mean, it goes without saying, but compared to this, it's really good. And the thing that made the fight scene in the Avengers, as much as I consider it to be a bit overindulgent and all that stuff, what made it good is that the characters were cooperating. They were each doing their own thing. And if you had, for example, like, the army attacking from one position, Superman attacking from another, they're working to, do all of these things at once. They've got to contain Zod, but at the same time, they've got to contain citizens. Maybe you'd have a scene where, the army's like, we've got to land a helicopter on that building so we can rescue the people inside. And Superman would be like, don't worry, I'll handle Zod. Like communication. And then Zod's got his henchmen and he's like, go get Lois Lane and I'll go take Superman and that kind of stuff. Like, that's how you make action interesting, I think, especially if there's no stakes if the action itself can't just be interesting on a level of 2 people fighting each other because they're superhuman and one of them's a main character, so he's not going to die. The only way you can make it interesting is by at least making it have that kind of chess quality of, coordinating, moving things around.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, I think they could have done anything. Just add anything and made it more interesting.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, but anyway, speaking of Superman, let's talk about Superman, Luke.
Okay. Did you get the Jesus imagery in this movie, Michael?
Yeah.
Did you get it? Because, when he goes into a church and Jesus is right behind him. Zack Snyder's such a genius.
It just, it's not as good as the scene in Spider-Man 2 when those New Yorkers pick him up and they pass him, to the back of the tube and he's, in the Jesus position. That's much better. So there we go. The thing is, So I hate to be a bit theological, but the problem is it's not earned at all, because the whole point, if we're going to talk about Jesus, the whole point about Jesus is that he is God, and he is so powerful that he could have, just killed all of the Romans, killed everyone who wanted to take him out, but he didn't, because he died for peace. That's like the whole point of Jesus. So the idea of comparing Superman to Jesus, who in this just smashes people into buildings, doesn't really make any sense. I mean, like, that's the problem. I mean, even if Superman acted like Jesus, it would be kind of a bit obnoxious. But the fact that there's no reason really for him to be compared to Jesus, because they're not similar at all, just makes it even weirder. I guess it's just artsy.
Yeah, I mean, Zack Snyder, as we've seen, he does like for his movies to I don't know,
to evoke very strong. Yeah. I guess he wants things to seem meaningful. So
yes.
Obviously that means being very sacrilegious. So
yeah.
Yes, but yeah.
Superman. And then at the end of the day, it's just two aliens punching each other, going through buildings. But yeah, I mean, the thing with Superman, like, I think in this movie, there's so much emphasis of him being like the chosen one, and like, he's so.
Oh yeah, the whole like I don't know if that is from the comics, but the whole he's the only like natural birth. So then obviously that's kind of like got it's like similar to obviously the virgin birth, except in this case it's the only
and but he's like, there's this idea, and both of his dads say it, like, he's so much better than humanity, and throughout the movie he looks so cool. He doesn't actually help anyone. Like, the oil rig is the only time he does something like
I was going to
say,
he does do some Superman stuff. Also, when he's a kid, he helps people, which is kind of weird. Like, I mean, that's the problem again with like the way the story is told, making no sense. Because when he's a kid, he's already a super. Like, if anything, he becomes less of a superhero. When he's a kid, he's like, I'll save everybody, all in a day's work, man. Up and away. And then just throughout the film, he becomes increasingly less of a superhero and more of just a weapon.
Yeah.
Great.
More of just a guy who thinks like he owns the place now. Like, I'm better than you. I'm Superman. I'm so cool. Like, when Zod throws a truck at me, I'm not gonna try and. It was in the.
Doesn't he duck?
Like, he dodges it.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when, like, when I was a kid. One of the things that everyone used to like to try and do was, if a door was closing, they'd sneak through it just as it closed.
Yeah.
But it basically was like, even if there was someone behind them, and the teachers like had to have a word with people about it. They were like, you can't sneak through the door at the last minute. You've got to hold it open for the person behind you, because otherwise, it's just annoying, because then you've snuck through, the door's closed behind you, and everyone else is stuck. Basically, that's what Superman was doing. He was the one ducking through that door, not holding it open for anyone else.
It crashes into this building, this truck, potentially killing like millions of. No, not millions, sorry. Potentially killing, let's say dozens of innocent people. Like, instead of stopping the truck, he just dodges it. I mean, he looks cool while he dodges it, which is, I guess, what Zack Snyder cares about.
Yeah.
But his desire not to save innocent lives is really shown there. And he's got no concern really for all the people who have died, which is completely opposite to what Superman is meant to be all about, Michael.
Yeah, it would. The thing is, like, you could have a story arc around Superman where he gets caught up in a big battle, and then it would have to be early on. He gets caught up in a big battle, and he does fail to take account for collateral damage, because obviously, on some level he's like invincible, so you could maybe understand that he wouldn't be fully cognizant of how the fight that isn't harming him at all could be really horrible for other people, especially in the heat of the moment. Obviously he's a rookie, he hasn't done stuff. The problem is, number one, like I said, he's already a better superhero at the beginning of the film than he is halfway through.
Yeah, he doesn't grow. He doesn't learn.
Number two, there is no real reflection on the sheer amount of destruction. So, anyway,
he doesn't even try to drag Zod away from Metropolis either. Like, he's just fine with fighting him in there. Like, you're right. If he did have that moment of reflection, like, oh shit, millions of people have just died, and it's partially my fault. Oh no, But yeah, he gets even more cocky after that. He decides to destroy a fucking surveillance thing.
Yeah, but it's okay because he's hot.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, great stuff. You know what? That scene where he dodges the truck, that reminds me of something that I think it was in the Red Letter Media review of it was Batman v Superman, and I think it was Rich Evans who was like, so they got this. They imagined the story in which Superman picks up a bus full of children and throws it at Doomsday.
I remember that.
And it's like, oh no, Superman, there's children in that bus. It's just like, that's perfect. That perfectly sums up like this particular Superman. Just doesn't care about saving people. Just cares about looking cool and killing the villains.
Yes. Speaking of cool, I did like the scene where he impaled that guy's truck with logs. A fucking badass.
Again, it's not very Superman-esque.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it comes down to the fact that it would work if you had a film about Superman. It's kind of like, obviously you've got the famous scene with great power comes great responsibility. If the point of this film was, Superman learns to be a superhero, he's a Superman, but is he going to be a superhero?
That's a good point.
That's my way of phrasing it. But yeah.
That sounds like something a character could say. Like maybe his dad, like, you're a Superman, but you got to become a superhero.
Yeah,
and he prods his chest up. He looks up at the sky. He's like, yeah. Sorry, go on.
Super. Anyway, I have like a few. Okay, I'll say this. Other thing, I think he should have had his job at the Daily Planet earlier because Superman living a double life helps to humanize him. The problem is there's not really many scenes in this film where he's forced to act like a human being, which means that you can't really identify with him as a human being, especially when he's an adult. Like, obviously when he's a kid, he's kind of being a human being. And some of the stuff towards the beginning where he's being a drifter, he's being a human being, although at that point he's kind of being a loner human being, so it doesn't really work. But if you had, a scene he's at the Daily Planet, he asks Lois Lane on a date, he's a bit nervous, like literally anything. But yeah, just something to show like, oh, he's got some of the relatable human struggles because he's got to be secret. Then he would have been so much more relatable, but instead he gets the Daily Planet job right at the end. So
yeah,
it's a bit too late to make him seem like a relatable human being when he's just murdered a million, just casually let a million relatable human beings die.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, I guess you could say, well, they're setting up the sequel, so it's okay. And this movie's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long already, so if they have the scene where he joins the Daily Planet, that's going to be another 10 to 15 minutes. So, it's like, it's fine, just save it for the next movie. But I do agree
they can't cut down the action scene at all.
No, definitely not. But they do need to humanize him a bit more.
Yeah. I mean, like, the thing is, they could have done a thing where, like, he has a romantic, the romantic interest, because Superman Returns has, like, it's kind of the classic thing, but it's like Superman, he lifts up, I think it's been in, like, a whole load of Superman films, he lifts up Lois Lane, and she's, flying, she's kind of just in awe at the fact that she's, flying in the sky, and she looks around at the lights of Metropolis, and it's beautiful, and they're up in the sky, and he's embracing her, and nothing like that happens in this at all. There's no heart.
Well, yeah, they have that kiss like I mentioned before, but that's like during like the death scenes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the kiss does like the kiss is basically it's how you say
so out of place.
Yeah, it's how you say, oh, they're in love, but nothing is really established why they would be so in love. I mean, the thing is, like, it doesn't help. Exactly, yeah, it doesn't help that he's so hot in a way, because it just means like I don't know, like, I kind of like how in the other thing is when he works for the Daily Planet, he kind of wears glasses. I know, like, glasses don't really make somebody unattractive nowadays, but Hollywood is still stuck in this mindset of like, oh, they're wearing glasses, they must be unattractive. So he wears glasses, like gels his hair into a kind of nerdy little gelled hair thing, hunches his shoulders. Like, generally speaking, he doesn't want to appear like this super masculine Superman. And that means that if Lois falls in love with him, it's like, oh, it's probably at least got something to do with the fact that he's like a nice person, because he's not being a super sexy Superman. But in this film, he's being super sexy Superman all the time. So, I mean, yeah. And to be honest, like any girl would, because just imagine, like, what would it be like? She'd be like, I want you to destroy me like you destroyed all of Metropolis.
That would be a great skit. Yeah.
I think that'd be, like if when they have sex, they like end up destroying loads and loads. Like just they have sex. Like I can only have sex by my favorite position is flying through skyscrapers. Oh, kinky.
Oh god, yeah. Destroy me like you destroyed Metropolis.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I have a really minor criticism. It kind of feels out of place because so many of the criticisms are huge, but there's a really weird scene where like it's kind of a good scene because it's explaining why Superman is powerful, which is quite good. Like it's saying like you have been raised to live on Krypton, which has the Krypton sun is later in its life cycle, which means it's darker, it's dimming. But the Earth sun is much younger, therefore the Earth sun has a lot more energy. So Superman, who's evolved to live on a planet with relatively little energy in its sun, is now on a planet with lots of energy, so he's really powerful. It's explaining all of this, and then he just randomly crashes into like the ice, gets up, and then it just continues the voiceover. I'm like, hold on a minute, what? Like it doesn't like it kind of made me think of the Iron Man scene where Tony Stark crashes into the desert. But the thing is, when he crashes into the desert, it's like a thing that happens, and he's like, oh damn, I crashed into the desert. But Superman, he's just like in the middle of a voiceover, gets up. Oh, guess I just crashed into that snow, and then it continues the voiceover. I'm like, what was that?
I don't know.
Yeah, relatively minor in the grand scheme of things, and I only have one more thing to say about Superman.
Okay.
Do you have anything else at all?
Yeah, I do actually.
Well, why don't you go next?
Okay. Well, I just wanted to talk about Superman's like motivation, like.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
His philosophy towards Earth and humans. I think it could be clearer, like because I think he does feel like attached to humanity, but there's not really anything that he wants to save Earth, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's no like I would appreciate a line of dialogue like, "These are my people."
Yeah, well, you know what would have been a very good opportunity to have a film that explores Superman's relationship to Earth, would be a film, where somebody who came from Krypton came down to Earth and decided to terraform Earth into Krypton.
Okay.
That's forcing Superman. No, that's forcing Superman to choose between Krypton and Earth. The problem is, first of all, the film doesn't. I don't think the film is actually dialogue heavy enough. There aren't any like dialogue scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, the other thing is like,
which is weird, but yeah.
I mean, again, I keep coming back to the fact that Zod should have been in a second film. It should have been, so you've got Superman, the origin story, and just like a minor villain. I don't know, like Bizarro, Parasite. Those are the only Superman villains I know. I know quite a few, maybe. Doomsday, yeah. Doomsday's like a bit more major though. So he's in the Death of Superman comic book arc. Yeah, so someone like Parasite. I mean, do you know who Parasite is, Luke?
I don't know who Parasite is.
Exactly. So that's why you should have him. So you got Parasite, and it's like Superman. He obviously becomes a hero. Parasite happens. He goes to defeat Parasite. Maybe, for example, in defeating Parasite, he causes some civilian casualties. Thinks, oh no, I caused some civilian casualties. That sucks. I've got to learn in the future to be conscious of Earth because Earth's sad. Then you've got your second film. Zod shows up. Well, first of all, the second film starts, shows Superman's origin, shows the Krypton thing, introduces the character of Zod. Zod shows up, and then Zod's like, hey, Superman, I'm going to turn Earth into Krypton. And maybe don't make Zod a Nazi, because it makes him completely unsympathetic, which means that Superman rejecting him is made much less relatable. And yeah, then have Superman be like, no, I love Earth. I've been here for 2 films now. I've grown as a person here. And Zod would be like, well, damn, guess we're going to have to fight. And Superman's like, okay, but not here, because there's, loads of people around. And Zod's like, yeah, okay. And that would be, there we go, that's your 2 film. And you know what, they would have made twice as much money, because they would have made 2 films.
Yeah, I would like...
Twice as much money and 2 films that are better.
Yeah, I would like a one dialogue like, oh, I'm human, I belong on this world.
I think there's one kind of good line, but the problem is it's Kevin Costner who says it. He says, like, I can't think what the line is, but it's like, oh, goodness me.
Oh, is it like...
it's like, oh, no, it is. No. It's the line, Superman says, like, I'm not from here, because he's just found out he's like an alien. And he says, like, oh, I'm not from here. and Kevin Costner says like, no, you're as much of an Earth. I don't know. He says like you're as much from here as anyone else, or something like that. So basically, he says like this planet is yours as much as anyone else. I don't know, some line like that.
Yeah,
I'm probably making the line sound slightly better, but
yeah, I would have loved if he would have said that to Zod.
Yeah,
when they before they fight, like
a bit of reincorporation.
Reincorporation, a bit of strengthening his motivation, and be like, oh, this is what he's fighting for, and it would have been good, but it's not the coolest thing to say.
Yeah, Superman has no real reason to care about Earth.
Yeah,
I mean, especially the other thing is like the fact that he's a drifter. The first half of the film doesn't help because it basically means he's already completely removed from society. So he's
disillusioned with Earth.
Yeah, he's not an active member of like Earth. So why does he even care? He joins Zod.
I mean, obviously he saves the world, so it's like pretty clear what his motivation is. But it feels like he's just saving it out of an obligation, like he kind of has to.
Yeah,
he would like to actually see him being passionate about saving the world.
Yeah, exactly.
This is something I really want to do because I am effectively human. Earth is my home, so that's why I'm going to do it. But yeah, he's just like, I'll do it because I'm Superman. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's what they call writing backwards. He is Superman, therefore he does Superman things, and he always will do Superman things, and therefore it doesn't matter how he ends up doing them. It just matters that he's going to do them because he's Superman. Anyway, so I did have. I'll do my one thing now.
Okay.
I think we should talk about Superman snapping Zod's neck.
Okay.
So obviously there's one immediate problem with it. The fact that he snaps Zod's neck to save like 4 people, even though millions of people have died at this point.
Yes.
I think on balance, it's worth noting Superman isn't Batman. So obviously Batman shouldn't kill people full stop.
You got to tell Zack Snyder that one.
Yes, I know. But yeah, Superman isn't Batman. So it's slightly more justifiable him killing people. Having said that, he shouldn't be a straight-up murderer. I think again, the problem is that this was his first film, because that establishes a precedent. If it was like, his first film, he doesn't kill the person, he, just defeats them.
Yeah, and gets locked up in jail, like what happens with Lex Luthor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Lex Luthor, obviously, you want to keep Lex Luthor around because Jesse Eisenberg, what a great actor.
You want him in your franchise, then?
Yeah. But yeah, so you have him not kill somebody in the first one, and then maybe later on you could have something where it's like he's a really, we know Superman's a good person. It's been established Superman is a very good person. So maybe 2 films in, maybe even 3 films in, we know Superman's a good guy, and suddenly this villain comes along, and they're too powerful, and they're too evil. We know how extreme they are, and then maybe you could have Superman kill them, because fundamentally, Superman isn't Batman. He does have his limits, and therefore, if it was like Superman had already shown himself to be a really good guy, but Zod comes along, he wants to destroy the entire planet. He's just as powerful as Superman. Superman realizes, the only way, and maybe even has a scene about it where he's like, I don't want to kill him, but I know that at the end of the day, either he dies or everyone dies, and he's really conflicted about it. And then maybe, Lois Lane gets threatened or something, he just has to do it. That would be good, but the problem is, it just seems like, okay, so Superman just kills people, right? That's how he solves his problems, and yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was thinking when he killed Zod, and he was like, "No."
Yeah, I mean, the no was quite good.
Yeah,
I mean,
the no was
wasn't
quite
really consistent with his character. But yeah, the fact that he did seem like upset about it.
But yeah,
actually the best thing.
He did seem upset about it, but I was like, "Oh, he's upset about it." Like,
yeah,
I
that's
was
the
like,
problem. Yeah.
"Oh, I didn't think he would be," but
yeah, that's
apparently
the
he is. Yeah.
Well, you know what? He doesn't. Even though loyalty is to Earth and not Krypton, he doesn't care that millions of people from Earth have died.
Yeah.
But he's very upset that somebody from Krypton has died.
Not just anyone from Krypton, a Krypton Nazi.
Yeah, Krypton Nazi. It's kind of like somebody who will complain about a black rapper for talking about hoes and booties and stuff, and then they'll say, Hitler was actually really good for Germany. That's what Superman is the equivalent of. It's kind of what you should have said. You should have had a scene where he says, "If I kill Zod, that will make me just as bad as Zod."
Yeah, I guess so. So Michael, who do you want to talk about next? Yeah, Zod. Let's do it.
Let's talk about Zod. I have 2 things to say, both of which are related to right at the beginning. So,
okay, go for it.
Number one, having Zod be evil already, as in he's already an evil guy on Krypton, I think means there's too much going on. That's what I was going to say when I was talking about how it's a bit confusing, because it's like you could have just had a little deconstruction of Doctor Who. He was maybe even make him a respected general. So we're not. Obviously, if you know the comic books, then you will know this. But we're not expecting him to be a villain. Maybe he's actually fighting actively. He's like when they're having their little council about how Krypton's going to be destroyed, he would be the person who's like, we must defend Krypton, we must defend the people of Krypton, we must, rather than walking in and murdering a bunch of people, maybe he's actually honorable, he's like fighting to keep Krypton alive. And that means when he shows up later on, we're thinking, oh, it's Zod, we know him. But then he reveals that he is very nationalistic in such a way that he wants to protect Krypton at the expense of other societies, and that could be his little thing.
You've got a lot of very good ideas here, Michael, because that's another idea I really do like. That, like, this guy who you see earlier, and you're like, oh, he's Zod, we know him, he's a good guy, but you slowly realize, oh shit, he's not. He's very dangerous. Yeah, that would have been great.
And then the other one, again, it's to do with there being too much. So you've got, number one, he's already a fascist Krypton Nazi, and he's our main villain for the film. And then on top of this, there's also the line where, and this line annoyed me a lot, considering it was just a throwaway line. I think the fact it was a throwaway line made it annoy me. Russell Crowe says, I'm loyal to the man you once were, Zod, not the man you've become. And it's like, okay, so like now he's an evil Nazi guy, and he's, our villain who wants to terraform Krypton, all that stuff. And also he was once this really good, noble, honorable person. And I'm just thinking to myself, again, like, they could skip a step here. They could have him be a good, honourable person at the beginning of the film, and then he becomes a bad person. And then they just, just take that middle bit out, and it's fine. So basically, those are my two things about. And then you could have maybe even Russell Crowe, because obviously he doesn't know that Zod's evil, could be talking to Superman. He could be like, as a hologram, he'd be like, oh yeah, one of my best generals was Zod, and he was really, really good. And then obviously, then Zod comes down, he's evil, and then Superman's like, you've become a bad person because you've let your nationalism corrupt you. And there we go. Anyway, yeah, so what did you want to say about Zod?
No, I agree with those two things, but I just want to say, actually, one of the good points of this movie is when Zod, at the end, is explaining his motivation, which I would like Superman to be doing, but Zod does effectively explain like why he wants to transform Earth into Krypton. It's like, I was bred to save my people, that is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the pure bloodline thing and the Nazi stuff is like, makes it a bit just too evil.
Yeah, it's too far, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like, you can sympathise with him. If like he's been like born to be somebody who's going to protect his people, but obviously he's going to try something like this, I guess.
Yeah, the other thing is, the fact that he has that line, basically the only reason he doesn't want to spare human beings is because he doesn't want like small amounts of discomfort for a couple of, he says years, it turns out to be a couple of minutes, but whatever. That kind of, again, makes him a bit, I think it would have been much more sensible if they would have made it so Superman was the only one who could survive on Earth because he'd been born there, and you could make it so, the Kryptonians would never be able to survive on Earth.
Well, he wasn't born there, so maybe he grew up there.
Oh, yeah, grew up there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the fully grown Kryptonians.
Their bodies never be adjust.
So then it would be like, hey, it's either live in space forever in spacesuits because they can't breathe, or live on Earth forever in spacesuits because they can't breathe, or terraform Earth and things like that. And that would make him, obviously, he'd still be a murderer and a bad guy, which isn't a bad thing. He's supposed to be a supervillain. It wouldn't be as ridiculous as just like, I don't want to, it seems like it'll be really annoying because, I'd have to get used to the air. Basically, he's like the equivalent to someone who's like really cozy in bed. He doesn't want to go out because it's cold. That's his character motivation. It was like the bare bones of his motivation was good. The idea of like he exists to preserve his people.
Yes.
Krypton über alles, as they say.
As they say, yes.
The problem is, there's too much complication, and also, for some reason to not just be like, hey, maybe we could coexist with humans.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. Anything else about Zod?
No, I got nothing on General Zod.
Okay.
I do want to talk about one other character, though.
I thought you... Yeah.
Can you guess
I mean, I
who
thought
that
we might.
character might be?
I would assume, just based on relevance to the film, Lois Lane.
It's not Lois Lane, because
Okay.
I don't really care about her in this
Yeah, I was
movie.
going to say yeah. I was going to say yeah.
We
In
can't talk
terms of
about
like,
her.
yeah, I mean, like I say, she's ostensibly important to the film because she's the love interest. But let's be honest,
Well,
I mean,
she's a
what is that?
journalist first and a love interest second, Michael.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, the problem is that Superman isn't working at the Daily Planet. The romance, I mean, basically, it's just a general criticism of the romance, really. It's not that involved. So, I mean, she seems like a nice person, not really a bad character. Yeah, she seems like a good character that isn't really that explored. Like, I assume, I fully trust that if she was more actively involved in the plot, it would have been good, because she seems like she's kind of a good character, I guess, largely because I've forgotten her name. What's the name of the actress?
What, Amy Adams?
Amy Adams, yeah.
How did you forget her name?
Oh, disaster. Yeah, Amy Adams is a good actress, so it made... I guess it's also, in my head, I was just like, oh yeah, it's the same character as the one from Arrival. Just believe that in my head, so... Yeah, we don't have to talk about her at all. So I am curious. I mean, maybe I could guess, but which character do you want to talk about?
I want to talk
Kevin
about
Costner?
Yeah, Kevin Costner
Okay.
as Jonathan Kent,
I
Clark's
thought that might be it,
Clark's adopted father. So this fucking guy, right? First off, when Clark's explaining that, obviously he saves all those kids from drowning in that school bus accident, and he says, "Well, what was I meant to do? Let them die?" And he just goes, "Oh, maybe." Like, what?
Yeah, oh, that's a tricky one. Yeah,
I mean, like, here's the thing, like, you make a good point that he becomes less of a superhero throughout this movie. Like, his adoptive father is holding him back from being a superhero. He's always like, no, yeah, just let those bus full of kids die. Oh, yeah, no, don't save me from this tornado. Just let me die. It's just like, why?
Yeah, and also the fact that, like, he receives relatively little backlash from the society around him, that just makes his dad look like an idiot.
Yeah.
At least if he got backlash from the society around him, his dad would be vindicated.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, he doesn't really. He's fine. Like, there's no like.
Yeah, the only reason why
they
turn against him is because Zod is threatening to kill them. Basically, if Zod hadn't been threatening to kill them all if they didn't hand over Superman, they probably would have just been fine with him.
Yeah,
and then at the end of the film, they are fine with him.
And another thing, I think his dad says something like, "You're destined for great things. You can be the bridge between humanity. You can show humanity the way you can be the leader of humanity. You can show us what we can be." So isn't that you want him to show his powers? Then you want him to show what he can be, and so when can he do that? Like when he's in the car with you in the tornado, he looks about 18, 19 years old. Is that too early?
Yeah.
Or is like he needs to be like 25 before he can start doing those things? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just didn't get like what Kevin Costner, his whole point was, his whole thing about Clark Kent was.
Yeah, you're right. He's
I don't know, just all over the place basically. Like, do you want him to hide his powers? Okay, you do. So you want innocent children to die, but when will it be okay for you to use those powers and become a leader for the whole of humanity? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think he really thought that much about it, to be honest. Zack
I
Snyder.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's not. I mean, the thing is, like, a lot of the characters kind of just, they don't. It's like a lot of the characters don't seem to have a point. Like, there's not like any. There's like you could have the father be the one who delivers, wise words of advice, and the mother delivers a different perspective, and all that kind of stuff. They could have each had a way that they feed into the hero's arc, but instead, it's kind of just like Zack Snyder, just like, just make him say something. Say, you've got to hide your abilities, but at the same time say, you've got to be the hero. I feel like, every single character, like that, the dialogue doesn't come from a place of character. It comes from a place of screenwriter just sat there thinking, what's a cool sounding piece of dialogue?
Yeah.
I know, you were destined to great things. Who says it? Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That's
I guess
Zack Snyder, yeah. Anyway, you know what, Luke? Here's my thoughts, okay? I think we've become... I'm gonna give us a round of applause. I think we've become more efficient, because I felt like we've said a lot, but we've only been talking for an hour and 20 minutes, so I don't know. We've got something something going here. Like, we've become much more efficient at making points. Like, I thought this was going to be a really long podcast, so we've got, it's a big film, but yeah, we've done it pretty much. I think we're all pretty much done. You got much else to say?
Nah, I think we're all done.
Yeah.
I think just as an aside, obviously, this is the first episode of our DC Ember
Yes.
run, and obviously, yeah, I think we should talk about the DC EU. Yeah, that's what it's called, the DC EU, possibly at the end of Justice League in a week's time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think we need to discuss it, particularly in relation to Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
But yeah, it is quite late when we're recording this, so we'll definitely
say that later. So later. Yeah, I think it's better if we do it later. Yeah.
Apart from that, do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, I'll wrap up, Michael. So, Man of Steel, a disappointingly depressing film, which gets worse as you go on in the movie with the action scenes in Smallville and in Metropolis. Superman shows no remorse for the millions of people that he is partially responsible in killing. And also, like we said, I've got a problem with the Superman character. Like, he's treated like a god from the very start of the movie, so he can't really grow as a person, which obviously is quite crucial for a superhero movie. That's one of we talked about the Spider-Man movies before, but the way Peter Parker grows in those movies is one of the reasons why they're so good. And as you pointed out, Michael, he does become less of a superhero throughout the movie, which is a bit of a problem. Should really be the opposite way around. And yeah, Zack Snyder, I don't know how he got this job of being the director for all these massive DC comic book movies, but fucking hell, like, I can't imagine somebody doing. Of course, the tone of this movie is very depressing, very dark, and that's him, down to a T. Watchmen is a superhero movie which is incredibly depressing. Actually, what's that movie that Kyle showed us, Michael?
Oh, no, I was actually thinking about that just the other day. It's
Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch, that's it, yeah.
Sucker Punch, yeah. Similar kind of tone, which is obviously the complete opposite of what a Superman movie should be. Warner Brothers made the completely wrong mistake hiring Zack Snyder. You've seen his body of work, you know what kind of things he's going to bring to the table, and you hire him to make a movie about a guy who should stand for truth, justice, and the American way. And, he should be like, up away, don't worry, man, I'll save you. I'm here to save the day. All of that kind of attitude. Yeah, and he shows none of it in this movie. And that's really, along with the action scenes, why this movie is so bad and unwatchable. And yeah, it's just quite shit. Therefore, Michael, I think I'm going to give this movie a 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And as for me, this film, I think it's worth just briefly looking at Zack Snyder, because I quite like 300 and I quite like Watchmen. And in both cases, it's because Zack Snyder is very good at making faithful adaptations of comic books. And what I mean by that is taking comic book stories, because 300 was originally based on a comic book, not originally, taking comic book stories and pretty much just using the comic books as a storyboard, and doing scene by scene through each thing. And there's a reason why he's very good at doing that. It's because he's very good at stylistic stuff. But there's one thing he's not very good at doing, and that is coming up with his own original story. So he's very good at adapting 300, very good at adapting Watchmen. Unfortunately, Sucker Punch was his first story he screenwrote, and there were all sorts of problems with that. And while I don't know if he was officially the writer for the story, I'd imagine as the director he was very active in crafting the story.
Yeah, I know actually in Batman vs. Superman he said that we came up with a whole new story, so that implied he was involved in that, so he's probably involved in this as well.
Yeah, so I imagine he did have writers there, but ultimately as a director it was his final call, and he's not someone, who's basically, I mean, to be honest, I just don't see what he can do anymore. I mean, maybe if he was forced to direct a faithful adaptation of a Superman comic book, he could do it reasonably okay, but the problem is I just don't think Superman comic books are his style, so I don't know. Maybe when they do Watchmen 2 or a Watchmen prequel, he can probably do that, and it will probably be good because it will suit his style and tone, but the way he's made himself, only do these hyper-stylistic, hyper-dark films means that there's not too many films he can do, and it will get boring after a while. As for the film itself, basically there were some good elements. It was, well, it was kind of competent, but the problem is all the pieces were there, but they were in the wrong order, in the wrong place, and with the wrong emphasis. And I kind of struggle with where to put it. I don't think this film was, I don't think this film was like so bad it was terrible. If you get, I don't think this film was like I imagine. Yeah, I don't think it was. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it was like one of those films where you're just like, wow, this was awful in every sense. It was just awful, all things considered. And for that reason, I'm going to rank it above what I consider to be the top film for the films that I consider to be serious missteps, and that is Mamma Mia. So it's going above Mamma Mia. However, I'm actually going to put it below The Grinch.
Wow.
So there we go. It's between The Grinch and Mamma Mia. But if you're interested, it's actually above The Last Jedi and Jurassic World.
Interesting. Yeah. What did I give? I give Mamma Mia 3 out of 10, and I give this a 4 out of 10.
What did you give The Grinch?
I gave The Grinch a 4 out of 10.
Okay, yeah, that kind of... All right, anyway, yeah, so there we go.
There we go, yeah. I think that's all, Michael.
Yep.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you for listening. We have been selecting and reflecting on Man of Steel because of DC Ember. By the way, we're doing this DC Ember thing because of the release of Aquaman, which I believe comes out the 21st of December. So that's why we're doing this. Not just because it sounds really cool, DC Ember. Next week we'll be doing another great Zack Snyder DC Universe movie, Batman vs Superman. Oh, sorry, Batman v Superman. It doesn't have the S in the verses. So Batman v Superman, which should be really fun to go through. Can't wait. So who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
And I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye. P.S.
I love you.
I want to mention how DC Comics stands for Detective Comics.
Oh yeah, that's a CinemaSins thing, isn't it?
It just annoys me so much. Anyway, but yeah.